Excellencies, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to this year's Global Green Growth Week, organized by the Global Green Growth Institute. Your participation is evidence that we, the global community, demand climate action, and I want to thank you for doing your part to drive and empower green growth. The climate crisis is perhaps the defining crisis of our times. Every year, we can read and hear more and more about the devastating impacts of extreme weather systems, and this year is proving to be one of the worst years yet, with the record floods, the droughts, and the heat waves, all of which lead to displacements from homes, food crises, and wildfires that disrupt and destroy the lives of millions. We are destroying our hope for a better future, and we need to work together to save our planet. I'm pleased to know that so many of you are coming together to exchange ideas, solutions, and best practices on how to advance the implementation of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the framework which I helped establish during my time as the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm especially pleased to know that many of you are joining from all corners of the world, including Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and the Pacific, and many of the solutions to be discussed are coming from women and indigenous communities who are most affected by climate change. I encourage you to take full advantage of Global Green Growth Week and engage with one another as green growth champions and practitioners. The climate crisis will require collaboration and collective action from each and every one of us, because climate change knows no borders, and climate change does not discriminate based on race or social class. We can transform our economies and societies and leave a better future, a sustainable and inclusive future, only if we work together. The challenges will be difficult and there are no shortcuts, but if we work together urgently, I think we can do it. As I have said before, there is no plan B because there is no planet B either. I hope you will join me to make the world a better place for future generations. I wish you very fruitful and successful events during Global Green Growth Week. Thank you.
Yeah, Priyan, you can take over and moderate the session. Thank you for accepting to moderate this session. The floor is yours. Priyan, we are not hearing you.
The jury has reached a verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame cataloging the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world. We are on a fast track to climate disaster.
Priyan? Priyan, are you hearing us? Priyan? Hello, Priyan. Priyan, are you hearing us?
Excuse me, Mr. Ledo, I think your mic is not connected. Can you please check once again because we cannot hear you? And Shifabo, maybe we have to consider to move on to the next speaker first. Hi, will you consider go to the next speaker first when I chat with Mr. Neto to see if he can connect with his video and audio as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We are not hearing you. Maybe you are not connected. What's happening?
I am connected and I can see.
Hello, Shifaru, are you hearing me?
Shifra, you can move to the first presentation.
Hello, sorry for the inconvenience happened. It usually happens through virtual. So the first presenter for this will be Alexis. Alexis, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Alexis, please go ahead. Yes, we can, Alexis.
Okay. Please, do you see my screen?
Not yet, Alexis.
Okay.
I think we do see your screen, Alexis. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Alexis, c'est ça qui est présenté. Ça veut dire que tu as deux écrans. Regarde, c'est ça ici.
Which one?
Regarde, ce que tu présentes, c'est ça. On voit ton écran, mais c'est ça.
And the second one. Can you see my screen, please?
Alexis, we see your screen, but please open the presentation. You haven't displayed it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the floor. I would like to take this opportunity to share the experience of Burkina Faso country in the.
Your presentation is not open.
It's not
Alexis.
open, please, Alexis. Open. Yeah.
C'est ça qui est là.
Sorry.
Tu me demandes si tu n'as pas étendu ton écran.
Oui, c'est étendu.
Faut pas l'étendre. Faut pas l'étendre. Il faut le prendre en jour. Project. L'application. C'est ça qui apparaît.
Prends maintenant. Prends ta présentation, amenez ici.
Hein? Amenez où?
Parce que c'est maintenant ça doit.
Is it?
Not yet, not yet. Merci beaucoup.
Shifra, can you move to the next while he will be maybe trying to fix his issue?
I think that is better. Alexis, would you please stop sharing your screen? Hello, Alexis.
Yes.
Yeah, please sharing your screen, and then we'll move on to the next presenter.
Okay.
Later, yeah.
Stop sharing. Disconnected.
Okay, in the meantime, the next presenter will be Paul. Paul, please get ready.
I am ready.
Okay, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We have sent you the presentation in Korean and in French to avoid any technical glitches. And the only comment I have to make is that our chairman, Professor Ezekiel Okembo, the Nobel Prize laureate, unfortunately cannot be with us. He enjoys his emeritus state and his upcountry far from Wi-Fi and these technical gimmicks that we are working with.
Okay.
Ryan will now make the necessary movements that this presentation can be seen, and later I'm ready for the discussions together with my colleagues who are with me.
Okay.
The jury has reached the verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloging the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world. We are on a fast track to climate disaster. Major cities underwater, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms, widespread water shortages, the extinction of 1 million species of plants and animals. And this is not fiction or exaggeration. It is what science tells us will result from our current energy policies. We are on a pathway to global warming of more than double the 1.5-degree limit agreed in Paris. Some government and business leaders are saying one thing, but doing another. Simply put, they are lying.
L'avenir de la jeunesse africaine doit être basé sur l'héritage des ancêtres et la réponse
The future of the African youth must be based on the heritage of the ancestors and the response to the volatility of the global dynamics, focusing on humanitarian values and ethics. I was adopted with 3 years and inherited an heritage dated back to the 15th century as foresters, farmers in the Black Forest, and change makers in every generation. Since the 17th century, the Black Forest Cuckoo Clock by Trent Franz Kitcherer shows the world the time. My grandfather's ingenuity can be seen in every shopping center. And all the pre-packaged perishable in nets and pre-cut and packed food containers. And the whole second game pre-processed foods for the catering industry. My Swiss father started after graduation his first assignment in Istanbul, setting up Migros, Turk, as a social capital investment by the Swiss Migros founder Gottlieb Duttweiler. So he was called by the Swiss government to draft the trade in aid development strategy, fair trade out of developing country strategy as freelance volunteer since 1992, and the TIP development in progress, called by World Health Organization 1999 to org. The World Health Organization Health Summit since 2000 in Winterworth, 2001 Chair of Global Drug Fund meeting, New York at Rockefeller. Implementing WHO MDG under Mount Kenya Health Days, followed in 2015 by ICAD Interfaith Kenya Swiss Turk Curatorium. As a UN Civil Society awarded to winners with Save Lake Victoria by 2063 as UNESCO Heritage Sites. As Ketcherer, I will carry on with the legacy. So what is a positive peace mission? And what is the impact of Africa, women as the custodians of family, the economy of care, and earth democracy? We as UNGA New York 2019 awarded Sustainable Development Goals pioneers are responsible to implement the UN Sustainable Goals. We selected out the 17 goals, the Vital one for the African farmers, Goal 2, end hunger, Goal 3, ensure health, Goal 6, water management, Goal 8, economy of care, Goal 13, urgent action on climate, Goal 15, sustainable use of ecosystem, and biodiversity. Goal 16 as a multilateral bond for the future Africas. promote peace and inclusive societies for sustainable development, build accountable institutions, and secure justice for all. The Pan-African Canops Green Carpet Collective is the multilateral institution to implement the selected 7 goals with the 15 national organic farmers in today's 13 African countries. Angola and Mozambique will follow. 6 countries out of the 13 are on the global agenda as civil war theaters, and over 60% of our 4 million organic farmers are in persistent danger of losing their livelihood by crimes against humanity, victims of rape, torture, killings, displacements, and loss of property. The dire African realities based on greed, power, and moral capitalism must be changed by Rebo EDU. Successfully implemented over 20 years with prisoners, HIV youth, sex workers, farmers, and women group. As learned in New York, the positive peace mission are based on common interests. To protect the property against drought, flood, and land grabbing.
La deuxième étape à partir de 2023 est le rebelle.edu de 6660.
So the second step, as for 2023, is the Rebel EDU of 666 organic farmers to Canops Sustainable Development Goals pioneers. Learning the ropes of how to adapt to sustainable development goals on the 1 acre, planting the Canops, high-performing and multi-purpose biosequester with companion crops in the farm as a several acre in case of climate dystopia. So the Rebo.edu formula, 4 million farmers, 40 years until 2063, 15 national farmers that are we train annually to the 15th signatory National Organic Farmers Plan org in 2 hubs in Kenya and Cameroon as 1.8 million members, provided funds available. Professor Dr. Nigli from FEBL calculated the potential sequestration of organic agriculture to be 0.9, 2.4 gigatons per year, which represent 15 to 47% of the total annual agriculture. Positive peace mission brings hope to postpone the climate dystopia. So we share this hope with our AU ambassador and emeritus in Africa's organic farming movement, Mr. John Joroge, founder of the KIOF, Kenya Institute for Organic Farming, and co.
When you plant better around there like that, it will help now the roots go down so that the taproot of the tree will be quicker. So it will come out because this shoot will go deep. And make the soil easier and ready for oxygen. So the taproot will be sinking very quickly. Yes.
En tant que démocrate et scientifique,
So we, as African Democrats and scientists, follow Swiss scientific research from the world's leading universities, ETH Zurich, EPUL Lausanne, and FIBL, the National Organic Farming Research Institute, established in 1974. FIBL, one of the world leading institutes for comparison agriculture, led by Professor Urs Niggli. You will meet him in the next video. His conclusion are the scientific rationales for our work as Pan-African CANOPS, green corporate, collaborative, implementing the positive peace mission as from 2023 to 2023 as part of the AU ARBE policy USP to improvement of the selected CANOPS biosequesters planted as by Dr. Rudolf Steiner's biodynamic methodology to meet as our vision the coal miners with 16 tons of CO2 mitigation per hectare per year back in Africa's topsoil. Here, our science-based high-performing and multi-purpose selection, companion crops, are sunflower and fonio, Africa's oldest indigenous grain, seeds in the towns of Tombouctou. Picture vetiver, moringa, bamboo, followed by CO2 sequestration rates, and short practical benefits for harvesting moringa, 6-month lease, beans, oil, item to bamboo. The organic development belts from Egypt down the River Nile and the Great Lakes region from Eastern Africa to South Africa is facing multiple threats. Apart from the climate crisis, the African highway infrastructure network is creating new challenges. Bulldozing through the organic Comisa belt affecting over 4 million farmers. The extended linear source of negative environmental impacts by the Trans-African highways are polluting the air, fragmenting humans, wildlife habitats, obstruction, beekeeping, and animal husbandry by contamination pastures by polyaromatic hydrocarbon in the vicinity of highways. The total pH concentration in highways grass sample is 8 times higher and 4 to 7 times higher in soil samples collected near highways. Fluorantine, pyrene, phenanthrene are the major pHs in the grass samples, American Chemical Society. The Pan-African CANOPS Green Carpet Collaborative partners from 14 farmers organizations in 13 countries agreed to donate 1 acre of 10% of each farmer's land to grow various crops with ability for CO2 sequestration. So to achieve this within 40 years, 2023 to 2063, this means 4 million farmers. We have 4 million acres of land, green in Africa, preferably more. So the training will be carried out by the KIOF in 2 campuses, which emphasis on the 8 UN Sustainable Development Goals. The implementation process will use organic methodologies. 10 trainers will be involved. 200 farmers will be trained each week in 2 campuses. 100 farmers in KIOF Juja and 100 farmers in YCK Mombasa. They will be encouraged to increase the area planted from 1 acre or 10% with the crops whenever possible, Organic farming methods will be taught, encouraged, and emphasized. KIOF is competent in the organic farming training methods and has been training farmers for the last 30 years since 1999. KIOF has been recognized by both IFOM, International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, and the African Union. John W. George, director of KIOF, has served as on the international board or IFOM for 6 years and has been awarded champion for organic agriculture by the African Union. It will be our pride to train every group of 200 farmers to be trained weekly in 2 campuses, Juja and Waisiki, Mombasa, starting 2023.
Organic farming first, it's kind of system of agriculture that abhors pollution.
Organic farming is a type of farming where we don't use any chemical fertilizers.
We introduce farmers to organic farming. We talk about the advantages of organic farming over conventional farming. And then on the other hand, also, we come about soil and water conservation. The seminar takes, it's a 1-week course, and it's really broad, it's dynamic.
We introduce them to organic, tell them what organic farming is, the principles, the aims.
I'm here to learn about organic farming, which is a very interesting topic.
I'm here today to know more about organic farming, to learn more about organic farming, because before I had known nothing. We used to use chemicals and it is too expensive. And now we see it's easy for organic farming because we just use natural plants.
These are the 3 things. So we have sun, soil, and what? Manure. What do you mean?
It's very environmental friendly. For example, organic farming abhors, we don't like things like polythene, we don't like things like chemicals. You can't be an organic farmer without a compost. That is the first thing. So the first step in organic farming, we normally tell farmers that you are supposed to have compost. We also train them how to make pesticides, because if you tell them not to go buy synthetic pesticides or chemical pesticides, you have to give them a solution.
It's environmental friendly because there's no pollution whatsoever.
You don't poison the plants. You don't poison everything, the atmosphere. You make sure that you conserve the atmosphere and you don't pollute the environment.
Egypt aims to collaborate with 9 other countries to finish the construction of a motorway connecting the countries north to Cape Town, South Africa, by 2024, in the hopes of boosting trade on the continent. This proposal was revealed earlier this year, when Transport Minister Kamal El-Wazir told the House of Representatives that his ministry is working on multiple road projects to connect Egypt with its neighbors. According to the minister, Egypt will complete the Cairo-Cape Town highway that will cross through 9 African countries as part of Egypt's efforts to connect with neighboring countries. The Cairo-Cape Town highway is a route between Cairo and Cape Town which was first proposed by the British Empire in the 19th century, when an effort to build the Cape to Cairo railway failed to occur. In the 1980s, the plan was revived with modifications as the Cairo-Cape Town highway, also known as Trans-African Highway 4, in the transcontinental road network being developed by the
this way of looking at things. So I'm going to talk about how and to which extent does organic farming protect soils. the crucial role of soil fertility for secure food supply, further potentials for eco-functional intensification, a term which was used by the IFAM EU group in order to bring organic farming issues forward in the EU framework, research framework, and then coming to some of the conclusions. So I'm going to use references, especially from different meta-analysis we did on global soil data from organic and conventional farms. So we investigated a lot into more than 70 long-term comparison trials worldwide. I also use data from well-known comparison trials like the Rodale Institute Farming System trial in Pennsylvania. This is one example of this more than 70 long-term field experiments which exist at the moment. And you will see that the Rodale data is always on one side, on the very optimistic side. And I will also use data, for instance, from our duck farming trial in Switzerland, in the northern part of Switzerland, where we can compare different farming systems. And this is always on the careful side of the data. And we also started a few
Paul and the team, thank you so much. This is quite very inspiring presentation of proven experience in Africa in relation to the potential of organic farming. Of course, Pan-African Climate Active Organic Green Carbate is doing an amazing work. Definitely your experience shows that the potential of organic farming is tremendous, and we would like to discuss further later on during the Q&A sessions. I hope our participants would love to learn more about this interesting experience, and definitely they will ask your team some questions to learn more. Our next presenter is now, I move directly to the next presenter. Our next presenter is Emily Chlengat. She's a PhD student at Makerere University, Uganda. Her presentation is mainly on enhancing a model of proven experience in relation to farmers' communication to foster adoption of climate change adaptation. Emily, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Please go ahead.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for this platform to share more on how we can enhance model farmers' communication for sustainable climate change adaptation. Just to give a context, who is a model farmer? A model farmer is a person who serves as a community repository of knowledge and helps to translate and enable communities adapt through the information that they share. And in this case, climate change adaptation practices, which range from irrigation or micro-irrigation to planting shade trees, application of manure, rainwater harvesting, delayed planting or seed choices, and general farm management practices in the event of extreme weather and climate conditions. The next screen, please. So the argument here is that model farmers have the potential to provide relevant, timely, reliable, acceptable, user-friendly, but also inclusive communication or information that farmers in rural communities can use to sustainably in the sense that they can use this information for a long period of time, given that their source of information is available to them, but also that their practices or the things that they are doing are being monitored by someone else to ensure that they are doing the right thing and that they are getting the reward from what they are doing. The next screen. So why look at the model farmer as someone who can help communicate climate change information? First of all, there is an urgent need to increase productivity and also production in farming, especially with the rising climatic conditions, but also the increasing population in the world and also in Africa. Agricultural communication policies that are available are framed using national and regional contexts, which do not have on-ground or community-based information to guide how communities can actually adapt or can actually carry out these practices. Also, the rural-based farmers have challenges accessing timely and factual information. You realize that in many communities, the people who bring this information about climate change are usually extension workers, and yet extension workers may not be as readily available or may not be able to actually access the communities at appropriate times. For example, maybe when the planting season begins, they may not have the people access of the extension workers ready available to them to provide them with information for that given period of time. And then also, regardless of the available information, there is still, studies have revealed that even with the information that the farmers are accessing, there is still low adoption of agricultural technology. Therefore, there is a need to utilize the model farmer as a source of information that will allow for more adoption of the agricultural technology. Next screen. The other key issue is also that extension workers, because of reducing resources, as we have seen even now with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen that governments have less money that they would have used to support extension work, but also the non-governmental organizations that have been supporting extension work have also had dwindling budgets that usually support extension work. And then extension work in some areas have been proved to be exclusionary, especially against women, and not because it is intended, but because of society or cultural norms and beliefs about interactions between women and visitors, or women and men, as we see that most extension workers usually are men. So the next slide, please. So for this study, given that it's an academic study, I use the diffusion of innovation theory together with the self-efficacy theory. And these theories provide that for diffusion of innovation, that information, it explains how, why, and the rate at which new ideas are spread within a community. And then the self-efficacy theory is the theory that guides our thinking that what I believe I can do it. And so I use these theories, especially because the self-efficacy theory goes further to suggest that with sustained effort, a farmer can continually adapt and is able to beat the climate effects. And then also that by observing others, a farmer is able to build a belief of ability to do the same task. And so by observing a model farmer, the farmer is able to actually practice that activity that the model farmer is using. And then also the theory suggests that to do something, you can be with verbal suggestion by someone telling you that you need to do this or you need to do this in this way, then people are able to adapt to that thing. And also finally that the theory suggests that if a person's belief is strengthened, the strengthening of belief of an individual can help that person actually come out of that challenge and adapt that thing that will help them move forward. And for in this case, adapt to climate change practices that help them move out of poverty. The next screen. So from looking at the model farmer, it is critical to understand the nature of the communication that is shared by the model farmer. And because the model farmer is presently available in the community, they're able to provide quality information in terms of the time that the information is shared, but also the fact that this information is factual and that it has been tried and tested. So the model farmer information is usually of a high quality and dependable. And then it's also critical to look at the forms and structure of the communication because studies have revealed that for communication to be effective, it has to be participatory, it has to be two-way, but also it has to provide an avenue for feedback. And I believe that with the model farmer communication, because of them being accessible to the community, all these aspects of communication are catered for, which helps them become effective communicators. And then the source and production of the information shared. The model farmer, for climate change information, it has been revealed that information that is produced by the farmers within the community, for example, information about weather forecasts, if this information is produced concurrently with the farmer, and then this information is readily used, it is more acceptable to the farmer than information that they receive from maybe a radio station or a television broadcast about information that they may not know how it was generated or how it got to be shared or determine that it comes to that community. And then also, it's critical to look at the factors that influence the information. It has been revealed that the information that is usually shared in the communities come from governments, but over time it has been proved that even with this information coming from the government, sometimes government information is receives mixed reactions from communities because it is not clear exactly. To some communities, it's not clear what the intents of the government are, especially probably because of the other activities that the government is involved in. So they believe that information that the same government provides may not be as helpful to them because of the past or experiences that they've had with government programs. And then the other key issue that has to be considered is the channels of communication that a model farmer uses. And in this, we look at the trainings and workshops that a model farmer may get involved in. And trainings can be that the model farmer is training, but also that people who produce the policies that support climate change communication can also be trained by model farmers, given their own ground experiences. And then also the channels that also include social networks within the community, and then the demonstration farms that they use to share this information, but also where the model farmers produce their crop. And then the traditional media that may include the community radio, as well as small media like t-shirts or posters that can be used within the community. And then of course, with the recent developments in ICT and the digital divide, mobile phones, social media platforms that can allow further interaction with farmers within the community. These are some of the things that can be looked at while looking at the channels that model farmers may use. But in looking at the channels of communication, it's critical to understand what is workable, viable within a community. It cannot be one way for all. It should be tailored with the community, like community tailored. Yes, and then the other element that has to be looked at, the next screen, the next slide, please, is the perceptions about the model farmers within the community. So for a model farmer to be an effective communicator within the community, that model farmer has to be trustworthy and they should be of right standing within the community. They also should be accountable to the community, that whatever information they share should be reliable, and that they have a high level of accountability, that they may not mislead or give information that is countered or information that is intended to benefit them, but rather information that is purely to support the community adapt in their farming practices to climate change. And then there should be opinion leaders, because it has been revealed that model farmers who who are not at the same level of, for instance, in terms of their confidence levels or their standing in society, should be a little bit different from the farmers that they hope to share this information with. And then to conclude, for model farmer communication to be efficient and effective, you'll realize an impact in the communication of these adaptation practices. First of all, inclusivity and increased access to information. And because model farmers are based within the community, and because they understand the societal or the cultural norms and beliefs within that community, they're able to break the barriers of discrimination within communities, and thus increase access to information by the community. And then you realize also increased production and productivity because of the increased adoption of the practices. You'll also realize that communities are empowered because they see firsthand how the practices are being carried out. They are able to be empowered and implement, and that helps them to do more even in other aspects of life, which helps them curb food security and also adapt in their farming practices. To conclude, model farmers provide a viable and reliable mechanism to enable communication about climate change adaptation, reach farmers, and also help support farmers sustainably adapt to the adaptation practices, which will help in increasing food productivity and also production. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emily, for a very insightful presentation. Hopefully, the findings of your research will provide good insight onto how to design effective communication strategies for innovation in climate smart agriculture in Africa, and particularly how to adopt climate smart agricultural practices among smallholder farmers. Thank you for that very nice presentation.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Our next presenter will be Alexis. Alexis Tabsoba. He is a program officer of climate smart agriculture and sustainable land use. He works for GGI Burkina Faso office. His presentation is mainly on innovative approaches for promoting climate smart agricultural practices through solar power irrigation system. Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for the floor. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the attendees for the participation to this session. It's a pleasure for me to share the innovative approach for promoting climate smart agriculture through solar irrigation pumping system in Burkina Faso, which is the most important country office project in the agricultural sector here. Next slide, please. The one side, I would like to remind that in Burkina Faso, we have about 8 million people that living in the poverty threshold, with 90% of them in rural area. And the agriculture is contributing to about 34% of gross domestic product. And the agricultural livelihoods are also severely affected by the effect of climate change. The agricultural practice are mainly one per year, just one harvest per year. It's in reading season, and only 2% of the cultivated area are irrigated. And we have in this irrigated area about 60,000 diesel pumps disseminate in the fields. At the other side, next slide, please. At the other side, we can see that the irrigation pumping system functioning with solar panels are low operating costs with minimal maintenance, and can also reduce the emission of CO2. And when we adopt this technology and combine with other practice, we can increase the yield by about 30% for the farmers. That means it's a very good opportunity for a country like Burkina. Next slide. Then the project came to first test and identify a suitable irrigation design for solar irrigation pumping system with a combination of climate smart agriculture practice in order to develop an scalable and bankable business model for the country. Specifically, we aim to design, install, and test the performance and the cost effectiveness of solar pumping irrigation system in the farm as a replacement for the diesel pump. And we also need to generate the evidence for scaling up this technology in the country. And for that, we projected to train about 1,000 farmers and also support 30 village committee councils on training with climate smart agriculture practice and sustainable natural resource management. To support also the value chain of the farmings, we plan to train about 1,000 women in green entrepreneurship. And also we projected to achieve the objective of networking farmers and their cooperative to the pump provider and financial institutions. Next slide, please. And then we firstly try to involve the public administration for the implementation of the activities. And we firstly plan to train trainers, and about 83 regional technical advisors was trained in the climate smart agriculture approach and also in natural resource management techniques. And with 25% of the participants were women. After that, these trainers support the training of the farmers, and we was able to train 1,129 farmers, who 30% was represented by women. And third step was the installation of solar pumping irrigation system in the farm. There, it's important to underline that we first test some technologies as pilot in the volunteers, farmers. Then we collect data and make sure that the technologies are very sustainable and very convenient for farmers. And then we provide about 50 solar pumping irrigation system to farmers. And 8 of these technologies were dedicated to the cooperative of farmers. And what is important to underline here is that the most important thing is to define also an optimal solar pumping irrigation system for each crop, the farm size, and also which irrigation method and which kind of financial model will be convenient for the development and the upscaling of these technologies in the country. Next slide, please. And then after implementation of this action, we also faced some challenges and bottlenecks for uptake. Some of them are the lack of specific financial product for solar pumping irrigation, the low number of specialized technicians to ensure the maintenance of the solar pumping irrigation system equipment, and also the lack of control of the quality of solar pump supplier in the local market. So that need to develop a relationship with one of the national entities that is able to provide the certification of the equipment that will be imported for the country. And also, we notice a low level of organization of riparian farmers cooperative that needs really a support to develop the association and the way they are working now. We also need to find some facilitation for the water storage facility, because in the absence of sunlight, the irrigation will be low and we have to find some solution. The lack of policy to encourage diesel pump recycling, because the number is very high, and we need to convince the public decision maker to take a very good decision to go to the transition for the solar pumping irrigation system. And also we need to collect more data to improve the statistical data that we already get, but we need also for the groundwater to collect data to make sure that the water use won't be faced to a conflict between domestic use and agricultural use. And the last thing important is the greening of the agri-food processing that is mainly managed and developed by women entrepreneurs. They really need the support of GGI and other entities to green this processing of food. Next slide. So we hope for the coming weeks and months and years to develop some action for the upscaling of farmers' capacity building, and this can also be done by the support of the other stakeholders as public administrations. We also need to link the solar pumping irrigation equipment supplier with the farmers cooperative and the financial institution to make sure that all farmers have the possibility to access to this technology because after the training and the providing of this technology to the few farmers, number of farmers, the feedback that we receive is that most of the farmers are really interested by these technologies. And also we need to promote the development of the financial product specifically for the sector of agriculture that is considered as the risky one. But with the irrigation system, we know that it will be very interesting for banks and financial institutions to have a more focus and more interest for this sector. And the last one is to consider the groundwater resources that will be managed by providing more information to make sure that the user are looking for the best way to use and don't be in the competition that may lead in some conflict. These are the points that I would like to share relate to the Burkina Faso experience in irrigation pumping system experience throughout the project support by Danish country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexis, for that very insightful presentation. Certainly, as you said, climate smart agriculture is not optional for African smallholder farmers. It is mandatory given the changing climate. And also due to the vulnerability of smallholder farmers' agricultural practices, we need to widely promote solar power irrigation system and tap into its economic and environmental as well as social opportunities. So thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. Our next presenter will be Mr. Dore David Marcel. He is an architect, urban planner. That is very interesting profession, and he works at Agence Bayou Concept Sahelian. His presentation mainly focuses on Green Lab participative approach by communities. He will do his presentation in French, but his PowerPoint is in English. So David, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Zure David. I'm architect, urban planner from Burkina Faso, head of architecture and urban planning firm, Agence Bayou Concept. I'm going to share with you my screen. Okay, I'm going to talk about Green Lab, participatory approach by the community. Maybe if you allow me, I will do my presentation in French because I'm more comfortable in French. Okay, what is Green Lab? Green Lab, c'est une approche participative. Nous allons présenter en 4 points.
So Green Lab is a participative approach by the community. We are going to present it on 4 different aspects: the context and presentation, the state of play and then the challenges, and then the links and potential. And then we're going to discuss about the good practices. So for the context, Green Lab is a program initiated by the AFD and was organized by the AFD, the French Agency for Development, between October 2020 to July 2021. So we had 25 participants from Burkina Faso, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Senegal, and Chad. So we discussed about the problems of the soil and the innovative solution. So also discuss about, and the Green Lab, we had working groups, and I was in the working group Green Lab. And in the group, we discussed about question on environment and agriculture. So in our group, we were 5. So I'm a co-host with Ahmed from Cameroon, Ismail from Mali, CG from Niger, and Ismail from Benin. So Green Lab is, the goal of Green Lab is to connect actors, producers, and consumers in a value chain around urban agriculture. So at the beginning, let's say that the approach for the Green Lab was more on the environmental phase, but we noticed that the environmental approach was, the isolated environmental approach was not that viable. So we decided, so an element where we are including money without having a quick return, and we decided to associate it to agriculture, and to be able to use it in the urban area as a sort of support to be able to generate income through green jobs. So, for example, there's so the goal is to develop agricultural productions in urban areas that are an agricultural production or recovered urban spaces like public and private. And also the question is taking into account the transformation of household waste for agriculture, like fertilizers, flower pots, etc. And also based on training in good agricultural practices and sharing of experiences. And this sharing experience take into account innovation in terms of in agriculture. And finally, at the end, at the result, it's to be able to generate income to green jobs. So we're going to discuss about the state of play and then the challenges concerning the city of Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso. So we started to take into account the realities of our cities, the city of Dakar, the city of Bamako, the city of N'Djamena, and the city of Ouagadougou, because the challenges were not the same going from one city to another. So we were encountering different challenges. So for the city of Ouagadougou, we saw a non-controlled urbanization, and that destroys environmental resources. We had green urban infrastructures, water courses, water reservoirs, wooded areas existing. We had the green spaces. The green spaces are not developed or improperly used. So concerning the state of play, we have agricultural gardening activities carried out in spaces that are not always appropriate next to dams, and this can create problems of salting the water. We also have the existence of non-edificant areas and easements on large rights of way, like railways, high voltage line, etc. We also have like the long of railways, which are like spaces that are not used. We also have domestic agriculture, like vegetable gardens, poultry, small livestock farming within the households. And finally, we have uncontrolled management of household waste and existence of dump in urban interstices. And all this household waste sometimes are dumped into unused areas. So the challenge is, like I just said, we need to manage the conflicts between green urban infrastructure and urbanization. So as challenge is to develop green spaces provided in the urban plans. We also need to develop those spaces that are already there. So we need to take back those green spaces and give them back. We also need to look for new substrates, excluding open grounds. We have many different practices that we can use that can be used to be able to have more input. And one of the main challenges is water. Water is quite important in ensuring the availability of water resources. We also have the difficulty of amendments of the ground, because the soils are not the same or what they were, and are really lessly adapted to agriculture. So we need to help put the cells and make them adapted. Also, the challenges of since it's done in the urban area, the income. We need to have a guaranteed regular income, because those the income is not regular and not guaranteed. Because, for example, during the rainy season, it's okay, there's a sort of income, but during the dry season, they are facing challenges. So Green Lab would like to be a sort of link between all these different elements. So for the support, we talked about using new approaches, green spaces, urban interstices, and urban easements. We also have green spaces that are available. Some of them are not really used. And what is quite interesting with green spaces, they already exist in the middle of the cities and in the urban area. And if we use this in the green spaces for urban agriculture, for example, agroforestry, those agriculture who are in non-appropriate places can be reoriented to these green spaces for them to continue their activity and generate income. And also we have the challenge of water. And that's where Green Lab becomes very interesting, because we have knowledge sharing, especially in terms of adapted farming, in terms of technique that we need very less water, few water. So we can make a sort of link with the household waste. While this household waste can be an output and become compost that can be used, because it becomes like organic that can be used in the fields. And this can help to have regular farming, not only during the rainy season, but all year long. So we're going to discuss about the good practices. The good practices really exist, but they're really isolated. The goal is to create a sort of network where we can have all these good practices gathered together and trained. And this can help develop the link between producers and consumers. So here we had the first picture, we had the domestic farming, which reused tires. So he's trying to develop salad in reused tires. That is like a private initiative. So the reused tires are like support for him to have his own agriculture, and he can consume his own products and he can even sell it. So for the second picture, we can see community-led garden in Tampui, Ouagadougou, where they're producing small plants, they're producing fruits, they're producing salads that they sell, and sometimes they even transform it. And also they're even experimenting new approaches in terms of non-ground culture. The third image, we have the green belt of Ouagadougou. It's a space that was attributed to. So the town hall was able to give them some space with a social contract, and they were supposed to take care of the trees that were planted, and they were able to have the agroforestry. Also have the valorization of domestic waste at Ouagadougou dumping site. So when all the waste come, the women are trying to change the waste. So all the plastic will be transformed, and all the compost too will be transformed. And that is what is linked to agriculture will be given to agriculture. So we finished with this image of a mango tree. which really illustrates the approach of Green Lab in the context of urban agriculture. It's a tree that gives us a lot of shade, and it really produces fruits and also diminish the CO2. So in the southeast of Burkina Faso, we have an area that produces a lot of mangoes. And when those mangoes are produced, those mangoes are dried and then exported to Ouagadougou and different countries. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, David, for that very.
Merci beaucoup.
From your presentation, I've learned huge potential of urban agriculture. So to ensure food and nutrition security, particularly since urbanization is expanding in Africa and other parts of the world, I think we need to tap into such practices, proven practices. Thank you so much. Dear all speakers and the participants of this session, I would like to now open up this session for presentation, for question and answers for brief discussion. We are done with our presentation. Maybe ask the participants from different parts of the world prepare to ask their question. I have a couple of questions I would like to ask some of our speakers. Particularly, the first question I have is for Alexis. Alexis, again, thank you for presenting your experience in promoting solar power irrigation system in Burkina Faso. But from your experience, what are the key challenges that limit adoption of solar power irrigation system or technologies among smallholder farmers? I would like to kindly request you to reflect on this question. And also, Paul, I have also one question for you, especially from policy perspectives. From your experience of promoting organic farming in Africa, what should policymakers do to create enabling environment for widely adopting or speeding up the process of adoption of organic farmer among millions of smallholder farmers in Africa? I would love to hear from you from these perspectives. Alex, would you reflect on this?
I think I'm not, or I'm on.
Maybe let Alex first reflect on it.
Whoever first. In my age, I'm not. I can wait.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. Alexis, please go ahead. We can't hear you, Alexis.
I said that. You hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you for your question. What I can underline here is that the system is not indefinitely extensible. We need to have an optimum for area, the type of the technology need to be very precise for a kind of surface of irrigated farm. And also the system is also limited by the sunshine. When there are some period of the year that sunlight is not very high to support to provide the request energy for the farms. And in this case, we need to have an alternative like storage possibilities for farmers when they are done, when they are not irrigated, they can stock the water, pump the other days, and supply it in the irrigation days. This is the first thing, but also the challenge is the accessibility. I mean here the financial accessibility by farmers. The technology cost is still high, and we need to support DGI or other partners, and the government need to support consequently the accession of the technology by farmers. We can, for example, have possibility of renting and or also the engagement of financial institution. That is now very low for our what we are seeing. I think we need to make more effort to convince financial institutions to support financially the acquisition of the equipment by farmers. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Please, thank you very much. That's quite insightful. Paul, because I'm very much inspired by your presentation and the experience of your organization, do you have any plan to expand to other African countries?
Yeah, as you see in our presentation, we cover 13 African countries,
yeah,
and 4 million farmers. I can invite our friend from the who just had the presentation, the architect, to join us, because this is exactly an area where organic farming does not exist. But you asked me another question that I would like as a Swiss, because organic farming has its roots in Switzerland and nowhere else. I can tell you how we convinced our Swiss government to support organic farmers. And as the co-founder of the Kenyan Organic Farmers Association, together with John Joroge, we made, call it a diluted proposal to the Kenyan government. But as you know, this was under Arab Moi. And as you know, the situation maybe in Africa, organic farming with 2% of the market share, even in export, is at the moment for the politicians. It is not the hot cake which they have to do anything. Therefore, our proposal, what is on the table now, is the quintessence of my 65-year development in progress. I was first 35 years on the food processing distributing side at Migros. Migros is the largest food processor and distributor in Switzerland. We feed about half of the Swiss population. I have been called by the government to develop an alternative strategy, development of the trade is aid out of developing countries. This is what we have tried so far with the few crops which are not monopolized. One of them was, thank you very much. One of them was macadamia nuts. We have established a huge market of macadamia nuts in Europe. We have established with the Swiss Baker Association the Bread of Solidarity, which was the fundraiser for the World Health Organization, the curtain riser in Switzerland. We raised about 10 million. This was then the reason that I had to go to New York, to Rockefeller, to hammer out the Global Drug Fund, and met all the American philanthropy cluster over there. Also, what we have in mind is based on my experience of World War II. In World War II, Switzerland survived because of the organic farmers. I remember very well in Switzerland when my father came home in the uniform and with the little plow, and we turned our tennis court into a potato field. There was each potato field, each tennis court, each golf course has been in 1941 turned into either a potato or a topsoil field that Switzerland, in the struggle of Mussolini on one side and the Nazis on the other side, we could not import anything. And what I have in mind now with our 1 acre, or the 10% for the big farmers and the 1 acre for the small farmer, is that we have 1 acre, which in case of whatever happens, they can survive. They can survive as a family. We have all the crops which we have planted are here. It is kind what I had to teach. I was in the Swiss Civil Defense Force as a commander in the Medevac team, and what we had to teach our Swiss people how to prepare themselves for worst case scenario. This is what we have in mind to do with these 4 million acres, which have been pledged by the 4 million farmers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is quite interesting. Definitely, we will reach out to you to explore further areas of collaboration and also to learn.
We have our presentation is not finished. Our presentation on the whiteboard is outside, but I'm sure this is a topic which goes far beyond shareholder value. This is a topic to survive or not survive for African small-scale farmers.
Thank you so much. Well noted. Thank you so much. Dear all our presenters and participants of this session, I would like to invite Dr. Mali Fafana, African Regional Director for GGI, for a closing remark. And thank you so much. In the interest of time, I have to wind up this Q&A session. Mali, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Shifaro, for the moderation. And also, I would like to just say thank you to the participants, speakers, and colleagues. That was really interesting to hear, your discussions, time, and expertise that you share across the different continents. We hear a lot about, organic farm agriculture, a lot about that link to solar irrigations, model farmers communication, as well as green lab on indicators, different points. So yes, what I can say is that the food system not only driving, malnutrition and obesity as a whole, but also that generates 25 to 30% of the GHG emission, right? Deforestation as well. You hear about, soil degradation, factor that influence really the climate change as a whole. We are about 100 million people in 2020 that really rely on agriculture, which is about 30% of the global workforce. What that means for us and what it means for this conversation is that by 2050, the number will increase by at least, a number that's close to the billion, will require that we increase the current production of agriculture about 60%, which is quite a lot. We have this kind of perspective, what it means for us that if we have to meet the rising demand for the food and handling the hunger on the world and food security, that require climate smart food system that improve agriculture productivity, have a great resilience, as well as climate change and lower greenhouse gas emissions. We also have to not forget food waste, because it's over 1/3 of all the food produced. It's about 2.5 billion tons is lost or waste each year. It's quite a lot. What it means for us estimates is just that, that 8 to 10% of the global greenhouse gas emission are associated with food that is not consumed. So it's need also to think about what are the alternatives to move forward in that direction, not only on the production, but also on the waste side, what we can do in the agriculture sector. 1 billion people in the world facing hunger, and that number is increased by 45 or 46 million per year in the coming years. So it's increasing more and more. So we have to couple that with also the need of financing side. It's about 350 billion that need per year to really meet the climate-related goals for food system. On our conversation, the climate finance mechanism is quite important also to take into consideration, because when we look at specifically for Africa, we're losing between 5 to 15% our GDP capital due to climate change. And we know that in the region of Africa, that's the agriculture in a sense is, differ across the regions. 54% in South Africa really rely on agriculture, and we have more than 90% in West Africa. We have to achieve it by having a triple, what I will say, angle of different things. One is just how we can increase productivity, especially for like the 75% of the poor population in the world, by increasing in a sense that they can meet their demand on consumption, but also give them the opportunity to have income that can serve for indirect, let's say, benefits like health and education. The second element is just how we can enhance resilience. And that goes to some example that we shared during the conversation today. What are the type of method and practice that can be put in place to reduce the GHG emission, but also having more resilience from the population side? We talk about organic farmers, we talk about solar irrigation pumping system, and also kind of technical and natural resource capital management. With that said, we also look at certain financial mechanism that's quite important to put in place, because the particles, it's quite important, the communication is very important, policy as well, but how we can channel the financial to the right population, this is the benefits of smallholder farmers. So it's about thinking, having the right financial mechanism that can help the population to increase the productivity, have enough funding to just starting their work, and also getting to what the things they need at the overhaul. So what I would say, there's a lot of challenges that we mentioned today, but I will say that we have to make agriculture part of the solution to climate change, because we have to see those challenges as opportunity. And I think it's really linked to a lot of things, because this is floods, we talk about raising temperature as well, cut crop yields, and there's a lot of things that link to that. But we have to think about how that agriculture can be part of the solution of the climate change, and that change the angle of seeing things. And I'm glad to hear a lot of experience sharing from different, let's say, countries, and also different angles. And I think it's the only way that we can for us to reduce the learning curve, because that platform helps us to just share experience. And I really acknowledge the different, let's say, commitment from the different partner participant, as well as the different speakers. So I would like, on behalf of GGI, say thank you again for joining us during the GG Week. And also thank you for sharing those really exciting experiences. And I'm sure it's not probably the last time that we will talk and discuss together, because we want to more and more discuss the action, those kind of exciting experience to help others to learn from that. So thank you very much again, and wish you a pleasant day, night for where you are in the different place of the world. Thank you.
Thank you.